Hello everyone, I'm Abhinav Pandey, a cybersecurity enthusiast and a penetration tester. To get you all going, our next speaker for the day is a very inspirational figure. Gunjan is going to speak today about cloud security landscape. She is working with CrowdStrike and is an amazing community leader. So have a great session ahead.
Thank you, Abhinav. I'll just quickly share my screen. Let me know once you are
Absolutely.
able to see. I hope you can see my
Yes.
screen.
Yep, it is clearly visible. Please go
Perfect.
ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much once again. First of all, thank you to the audience for having me here. So today's topic going to be cloud threat landscape. We'll be discussing in detail what it means, why it is important, right? So on the let's get started with the agenda. I'll give a quick introduction of the topic. Then we'll discuss why cloud security, why it's important, the evolution of cyber attacks, how the adversaries as well as the cyber attacks have become more sophisticatedly advanced. This and with this advancement, of course, the responsibilities of the security stakeholders have also been changing. How they are seeing that shift in the paradigm of the security is what we'll be discussing as part of their responsibilities, and what is the new normal for them, right? And it goes without saying that security is something for which you will always need the right people, the right policies, and the right tools in place. So we'll also be discussing what are the do's and don'ts, and what are the key things that you need to look out in the vendor while you are choosing a cyber security or a cloud security vendor for your business. So uh, the cloud serves as a fundamental pillar of computing architecture, ensuring business continuity and sustainability. Increased reliance on cloud was accelerated by the coronavirus pandemic, and the cloud's diversity and flexibility are undeniable. However, cyber threats and cyber attacks have also migrated to cloud, right? We are facing a global cyber pandemic, which means the ransomware attacks have increased to 62% in the last year and more than 100% in some regions. Malware is becoming more sophisticated, targeted, and diverse in variants. The cloud and its supply chain are no doubt attack surfaces with high potential for criminal successes, right? Earlier what used to happen is mostly the adversaries used to use malicious files and malwares to get their foothold in the in any organization's network. But guess what, today it's not the trend, right? What adversaries are doing is they are instead of going with malicious files, they are uh, leveraging or rather exploiting the OS native capabilities or utilities like command prompt or the PowerShell, right? With what that does is that it if the solution that you have for your cloud security purpose, if the solution does not have a behavioral detection or artificial intelligence in place, the solution would not be able to detect whether the activities that is being done is a normal activity or a malicious one, right? So in today's era where tremendous increase can be observed in data leakage incidents and cyber crimes, online data protection awareness among enterprise is also arising. From small to big, organizations are dedicated towards adoption of a comprehensive security solution to get prevention against cyber attacks. But with the development in cloud computing security approaches, the hackers are also moving towards the next steps. To put it simply, cloud threat landscape basically refers to a place from where one can get an overview of internet threats in cloud. As defense, cloud security consists of all the technologies and the processes that ensures an organization's cloud infrastructure is protected against internal and external cyber threats. As more enterprises look up to the cloud as the future of business, cloud security is an absolute necessity to maintain continuity. Having the right cloud security in place makes sure that the light stays on so the business can focus on driving progress. Now, 96% of the organizations are using cloud computing in some or the other manner. What I mean by that is, let's say even if there is an organization that says our entire infrastructure is on prem, right, still they'll be using at least one or maybe more than one applications or services that are there in cloud. For example, if it's a development organization, they might be using AWS instances for deploying and developing their code, or any SaaS based services for that matter, let's say G Suite or O365. So the thing that I want to convey here is that today every organization's business is touching cloud in some form or the other. By now, I hope you all of us have understood that the cloud is already an integral part of the business. Use of the cloud means taking risk. These risks are associated with inexperience, lack of awareness, lack of visibility and control, the diversity of cloud services and their consumption models, the speed with which they are implemented, and the human factor. These elements combine to create a perfect setting in which cyber attackers can achieve their objectives. They know this and have the tool, time, as well as the financial resources to act accordingly. To understand the consequences of these gaps, let's first discuss few incidents, right? And before that, I would also like to highlight that with with so many organization having the right cloud security tools in place, but still it's observed that 58% of the use native cloud security tools that do not work with their cloud environment. What that means is they are having something in place, but that solution is not suiting their business needs and the requirements that their business model have. So let's discuss few of the breaches. A responsibility of both cloud service providers and their customers. The data breaches remain the top cloud security threat yet again this year. According to Canalys's recently published review of cybersecurity, there were more data breaches over the course of 2020 than in the previous 15 years combined. There's no question that COVID-19 pandemic played an important role in this dramatic escalation. The sudden jump in the number of employees working from home have created significant challenges in securing remote access to corporate resources. Also, highly distributed offsite workforces become an ideal target for social engineering hacking ploys. Let's have a look at some of the biggest cloud breaches of 2020. Now, when I say the biggest, it's not necessary in terms of the records that got breached, but the it's more on the scope of the exposure and the potential vulnerability. Microsoft disclosed in January 2020 an incident that occurred in an integral support analytics database. A change on December 5, 2019 to the database network security group introduced a misconfigured security rules. As a result, the 250 million records of support cases were compromised. Incident response team have seen a number of successful phishing attacks with a mission critical pretext. Remember, in the breach, the information that got exposed was the support details. So the incident response team observed that there have been multiple phishing attack attempts made after this incident, which involved the subject line as your IT support mailbox is full, or a new voicemail unable to access resources. In the case of this breach, threat actors with access to support ticket history could mount very targeted phishing attacks aligned with the prior legitimate communication with the vendors. This incident was a wake up call for Microsoft and all of us. Now, this was there was a third party which basically found this. Detected this, and more than 3 weeks passed until the misconfiguration was remediated. Another breach that I would like to discuss is with a music app. We all love music, right? Especially when with the advancement in technology, now today we have applications that not only let us listen our favorite tracks, but based on our interest they give recommendations as well. Why? Because they have AI and ML at the back end, right? So in December 2020, Spotify, again an AIML backed music app, announced that an undiscovered number of account registration records were accidentally exposed to Spotify business partners. The sensitive information that got exposed included passwords, gender, date of birth, and the display name of the user. The breach resulted from a system vulnerability that was introduced back in April but not discovered until November. Had there been a simple, penetration testing or a vulnerability assessment exercise, this vulnerability could have found and the breach could have prevented. Now, how do we stop such breaches? To answer these questions, let's first understand what are the weakness or the challenges behind such breaches. Okay, in terms of the breaches or the challenges that are faced by the business in cloud space, a number of data breaches have been attributed to the cloud over past years. And one of the notable being Capital One's cloud misconfiguration. A data breach can bring the company to its knees, causing irreversible damage to the reputation, and legal liabilities, regulatory implications, etc., etc. Now, here are a couple of the reasons or the gaps that basically are responsible for the breaches, right? The first one is, and a very infamous one, is misconfiguration. When assets are set up incorrectly, they are vulnerable to attack. For example, the Capital One breach was traced back to a web application firewall misconfiguration that exposed Amazon S3 buckets. In addition to secure storage, excessive permissions and use of default credentials are also two major sources of vulnerability. The other thing is lack of cloud security architecture and strategy. What happens is too many organizations jump into the cloud without the proper architecture and strategy in place. Prior to making the leap into the cloud, customers must understand the threats they are exposed to, how to migrate to cloud securely. Remember, it's not a lift and a shift process, right? And you should also understand the ins and outs of the shared responsibility model. The threat is new to the list and is a responsibility of the customer. Without proper planning, customers will be vulnerable to cyber attacks. The next aspect is cloud account hijacking. It is the disclosure, accidental leakage, exposure, or other compromise of a cloud account that is critical to operation, administration, or management of a cloud environment. These highly privileged and sensitive accounts, if breached, they can cause massive consequences. The next and the most important one is insider threat. Now, it's a good practice to trust your employees, and why not? Because they are your work family. But the risk associated with the employees and others working within an organization network are not limited to the cloud or on-prem. Whether negligent or intentional, insiders, including your current and former employees, contractors, and partners, can cause data loss, system downtime, reduced customer confidence, and data breaches. So, as a responsibility of the customer, insider threats involving leaked or stolen data, credential issues, human errors, and cloud misconfiguration must be addressed. So, if with every organization there is a dedicated team whose responsibility is to manage the the security portfolio and mitigate the threats that arises, and finally be able to reduce the attack surface. So there's a team, and there are different designation these team leads could have. They could be CIOs, they could be CISOs, or other IT stakeholders maybe. Now, with the advancement and the transition in terms of the cyber attacks and the adversaries tactics and techniques, the responsibility portfolio of these designations and these stakeholders have also been changed. What is the new normal for them? The number of cyber attacks and incidents dramatically spiked over the last year as organizations pivoted operations online. And as organizations expand and invest digitally, CIOs are now heavily responsible for determining what technology and cloud solution organizations should adopt to help grow the business. Today, more than ever, adoption of cloud as well as the changes resulting from the digital transformation require leaders and the managers to work very, very closely with the team, and also very, very closely with the business. And as critical as it is to determine the appropriate provider and defense strategy, it is equally important for the CIO or the CISO to lay the groundwork for policies and posture that are sufficiently designed with real time threat detection, comprehensive visibility, and security analytics. Ultimately, CIOs or CISOs needs to create a culture centered around cybersecurity that is easily visible and manageable to safeguard an enterprise indispensable digital assets. Now, uh, you know, a lot of organizations also, when they are transitioning to the cloud, they also wonder whether there are any cloud security frameworks upon which the organization can build their programs, or are there any frameworks to which they can refer to in order to understand what are the best practices, the do's and don'ts, right? Yes, there are many. ISO 27001, NIST, IEEE, COBIT, SOX. These are the multiple academic organizations, public and private, that have become concerned with the best practices of implementation and management, even focusing on the compliance with industry standards on data protection, such as GDPR, HIPAA, or PCI DSS. I think that each company should adopt and adapt the best practices inherent to its capacities and business process. To summarize this, it's a war. Cyber attacks are increasingly likely to employ artificial intelligence, using deep learning and machine learning algorithms to extend the sophistication and capabilities of malware and targeted attacks, making it more important than ever to ensure CIOs and CISOs are focused on fighting fire with fire. Now, the next question here is, what should be done? Well, I would suggest referring to the good practices that are there when it comes to moving to the cloud, or having the right cloud security strategy for your business. The first is to understand your shared responsibility model. In a private data center, the enterprise is solely responsible for the security issues. Now remember, one is for the cloud security, there are two components. One is the security of the cloud, the infrastructure basically, which is the complete responsibility of your cloud security, cloud solution provider. The other is security of the workload or the data that is there in the cloud. Now this is something which is the 100% responsibility of the customer. So this is, the concept that the organization need to understand before transitioning their workload to cloud. Deploy an identity access management solution. We The fourth biggest threat to public cloud and security identified in one of the report is unauthorized access. So the organization should also deploy the right identity and access management solution, which has the concept of least privileges. These policies should also be based on role based permission capabilities. Additionally, multi-factor authentication can further reduce the risk of malicious actors gaining access to sensitive information, even if they manage to steal your username and credentials. The next is on the insider threat front. Train your staff. Your people should have a regular training, which includes knowledge about the latest security trends, what are the threats, the different kind of phishing attacks, strategies that can be used by the adversaries, so that they can understand what are the what are the best cyber hygiene practices that they need to follow, and they will be able to understand the risk management both for the business as well as associated with their individual component. The next is to secure your endpoints. Using a cloud service does not eliminate the need for a strong endpoint security, rather, it intensifies it. New cloud computing projects offer an opportunity to revisit existing strategies and ensure the protection are in place that are in place are adequate. And for that, the organization could deploy firewalls, anti malware systems, intrusion detection, and access control. Along with that, there is an EDR solution which can help in this area. The next aspect that I would like to discuss is encryption. Encryption of the data both in motion and at rest. Now, as much as it is important to encrypt your data which is stored in cloud, while there's applications or user that are using that which is data in motion, even at that stage the data should be protected, right? And last but not the least is to conduct audits and penetration testing so that you get a hang of all the vulnerabilities or the gaps that are there in your environment, and you can remediate them in a timely manner, right? um, so this brings us to our last topic of discussion, which is choosing the right vendor. Security is something which, of course, there's a dedicated team, but they need to have the right security policies, the tools in place to basically arm themselves and make them ready for the attackers advanced tactics and techniques. So the first thing that you need to look into a vendor is automation, whether it's a preventive approach or a proactive approach, flexibility in implementation, agility, automation and simplicity, management of services. Whatever they do, they should always do it in real time. For example, if I have to, if I talk about CrowdStrike Falcon solution, we detect all the threats that are there, whether it is associated with your endpoints or your cloud solutions in real time. And it's a very very quick process. You just deploy the sensor, and within a few minutes you'll be able to see everything that is happening on a particular endpoint in real time and in automated manner. The next thing that you need to look in your vendor is data access policies. This constitute perhaps the most important security measure to consider. All major cloud computing companies will have policy that deals with who can access your data, how and when. So you need to understand, like, when your data will be stored in the cloud with your vendor very very clearly, that what are the data access policies they have for your data. The third thing is to have a clear communication, right? You need to very very clearly communicate with them what are your expectations, that there is whatever promises that they are doing, they are delivering on time. Cloud vendor contractors should tell you in no uncertain terms exactly what they are planning to do, as well as whether those plans are liable to change or not. So you need to ask your cloud security provider a very very detailed questions, as so that you can explain your business model in a very very clear manner to them, and you can have set their expectations right, and both of you can be on the same page, right? Along with that, the solution that the cloud provider security provider has, that solution should have accuracy. It should not be there that you are bombarded with the detections or the visibility, and now you're not able to figure out where you need to start with, right? How to reduce your attack surface further. And of course, when we talk about accuracy, there should be minimum false positives thrown by the tool that your vendor is using, right? um, Data encryption, of course, it goes without saying that you need to very very clearly communicate with your vendor that what kind of data encryption policies they have in place for, and at what different stages they are applying them, what is the algorithm they are using, the right key size, etc etc. Strong data breach policies, right? Continuing from the previous point, a good cloud vendor contractor should have measures in place in the for the worst case scenarios, right? What they're gonna do in case if there's a breach happens, right? How you will be informed, after what time you'll be informed, and what is their strategy to make sure that your business continuity is maintained even after something mishappening happens with your data, right? And last but not the least is providing excellent customer service. This might not be the first thing to come into mind when you consider how a cloud vendor contractor can help provide you, but this is very very important, right? Because right after when you deploy the solution, let's say if you encounter a problem or you get stuck somewhere, or there's some different kind of requirement that arises, you need to you would be required to go to the support, and there you need to make sure that you have the right kind of support in place, right? You don't feel that, oh my god, where did I come, what, I was promised moons, and I'm not getting anything. So be very very clear, and transparent with your vendor in terms of understanding their customer support, the modes. For this, you can reach out to their existing customer to understand how their experience has been, right? And also, please check on the compliance and adherence part with your vendor, just to make sure that they are clean. So these are the quick tips around choosing the right security vendor. And with that, we have completed the session, and I can take questions if there are any for me.
Yes, Gunjan will wait for the questions if we have any. They'll be on the screen right now.
Sure, sure. You can also reach out to me over Insta, LinkedIn, or email if you have any query. I'll be very, very happy to answer them. And once again, thank you so much for having me here.
I suppose we don't have any questions. We sincerely appreciate you, Gunjan, for taking out your time from a busy schedule to provide us with such valuable information. We thank you
Sure.
as a global community for the insightful session, and we hope that our audience learned a lot. So, thanks again for the great session.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the experience is likewise. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.